violence against the Igbo, which culminated in the formation of the Republic of Biafra in 1967. Despite the lack of resources and international support, Biafra refused to surrender in the face of overwhelming Nigerian military superiority, until the Nigerian Navy established a sea blockade that denied food, medical supplies, and weapons to Biafrans, causing thousands to die of starvation. On January 15, 1970, Biafra surrendered when its military commander, General Ojimegu Ojukwu, fled to Côte d'Ivoire. The aftermath of the war was marked by further violence and political instability in Nigeria. The Nigerian Civil War serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of ethnic and political divisions and the need for peaceful resolution.
And finally, we've seen the summit yesterday in South Africa, where the South African, the Namibia, nation declare love for the recognition of Biafra. They said it's our time, we come together just like in 1967. We declare and stand and support Biafra. And they are ready to do this. They are determined to make this happen. Even we saw the Nigerian government were so shocked at this at this summit as regards what the South African, Namibia, even Namibia president, we saw what she said. She said it's our time we adopt and take Biafra as our people. What is your take as regards this?
A liberation movement summit took place recently, and we saw countries like Namibian president, a woman, and addressing that occasion, and they made it very clearly that there are people who rose the African consciousness, who are championing Africanism, who are bent on, distancing ourselves, who are ready to give a black man consciousness to sit down and think for himself, how to liberate himself, from the squeeze we are experiencing now, whether it's from the Western world or not, that the black man need to liberate his mentality and be able to champion or redirect or reorient his own destiny, and not dependent on what the IMF, the World Bank, and of course the Western powers are talking about. We can see that in somebody like Ibrahim Traore, distancing himself, dismantling anything that has to do with France, and you can see that France is crying. So Africa has been a looting spree for the Western world, and that conference was solely organized, and it is called Liberation Summit, especially for other countries seeking self-determination. Fortunately for Biafrans in Africa, Biafra is #1 nation. The world is looking at how to liberate her from being attached to anything in Nigeria. And they are trying to take us back in 1827, where the first Biafra British treaty was signed, before Nigeria even came into existence, and that document is still very dear. Yes, before they have already, Biafra and Britain have already signed a treaty. These are what we are talking about. A lot of people does not know. There's nothing Nigeria will offer Biafrans that Biafrans cannot offer themselves. As simple as that. And it is time for us to understand it very clearly, that there's no two ways about it. The system, the judiciary, the legislature, everything is not working. Those who believe in Nigeria are the ones creating disunity in Nigeria. And this disunity is being factored with Islamic and Fulanization agenda. Then they cry for liberation and to run to countries who feel that this is purely injustice and the world needed to do anything. First of all, we have to start from Africa. And that is what that liberation conference is all talking about. We are surprised that the Chinese government also, sent a delegate and made it very clearly that, I think it is time because to recognize Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, his sacrifices and all that. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has gone beyond, what people think. Unfortunately for them, they underrated him, but his impact speaks volumes among diplomatic circles around the world. But let me just say it very clearly as the way it is now. The representatives of that conference, has called for, a total dismantling of anything that will stop Biafra at the end of the day. And that's the essence of that. Then the most interesting thing is that the most countries that recognized the nation called Biafra in 1967, we are part of this liberation summit, and they have insisted that we must go ahead and do it again. Surprisingly, to many people, the agitation for recognition of Biafra has taken an African dimension. The African leaders, and then, fortunately, Namibia is spearheading that campaign now. And some other African institutes, are also at that level currently now. And you can see at every point in time, they make reference to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, as is a freedom fighter, I think, little above Nelson Mandela currently now. And he's been celebrated for, standing against, forces of oppression and marginalization, and speaking the truth to the global world for final liberation of Biafra. So that's what the summit is all about. He held in South Africa, and subsequently, a lot of things happened there. He sent a strong signal to Asurok currently now. We don't know the direction Ramaphosa is coming from. I remember the current president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa, if I am correct, has called for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu.
But do you not think that, because do you not think that the Nigeria government will not be perturbed as regards the South African and the Namibia drumming support for Biafra? Because I feel Nigeria might think that they are bigger than this this other countries, and they will feel that why should they be really disturbed by South Africa and Namibia drumming support for the Biafra? But do you think that if South Africa and Namibia really come together and support the Biafra with other nations, do you think that with this, do you think that the Biafra freedom is already sacrosanct?
Let me just tell you, immediately Bola Ahmed Tinubu left ECOWAS as the chairman, a lot of things opened up. Access came. People begin to have access to ECOWAS, have access to AU, and this, all those people that were blocking access to the leadership of AU and all that are no more. So they have more access now, and the doors are more open now, and that is why we are seeing these revelations coming, from different angles. So it is a direct signal that Nigeria image has been destroyed among committee of nations, among international communities, among AU. Nigeria have no good record, and the only person who would have heard and laundered the image of Nigeria properly under this administration, unfortunately, it is an abysmal and incompetent person that does not qualify to be a Nigerian president in the first place. He was not even re-elected. They sent him out completely. To tell you that he does not represent the Nigerian people. And he does not represent the most populous black nation in the world. He has no image to protect. He has no integrity to protect. There's a case file related to drug there. There's a lot of things about him. This is where calamity, human rights are being abused. With a case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu being kidnapped. From a government kidnapping. You know what it means. So I think to an extent, Nigeria has damaged Nigeria among international communities and relations, and that will have led to diplomatic breakdown. So with that now, it creates another channel of those who feel they are not part of this system to champion their cause, and that's exactly what you are seeing currently now. And that's what the direction it's actually going.
But we also saw China. I was just reported as China too. They've agreed to adopt. They even held Biafran. In a crucial meeting last month. Do you not think that China and Biafra coming together will further give the Biafrans, because we know that for a fact that China are one of the most developed countries presently in the world, technology wise. Do you think that and we know who the Biafrans are in terms of ideology, in terms of in terms of business? Do you not think that when these two come together, do you not think do you not think this one Nigeria government are kind of perturbed as regards China and Nigeria Biafra coming together?
The only option left for them on the table, is nothing but the reality on ground. Nigeria has been compromised built in corruption. Every other thing about Nigeria is corrupted, and if it continues like this, the burden will fall on those who want to define their own destiny. The Biafrans want to define their destiny, and the world have heard them clearly. I'm not only hearing them clearly, there are proofs You know, they check things, they check record, they check some other things. You discover there are really proofs, you know, that see, this thing cannot be coupled together. That's the fact, you know. So anything that bring them together, you know, is going to cause, you know, what is the language they use? Is it combustion? You know, let me tell you. Let me just give you. They say too much fish in the mud will stir up in the river will stir up the mud, or in the pond will stir up the mud. Too much fish in the pond will stir up the mud. If there is heavy pressure on a cargo, it will sink. The corruption has brought a lot of things on Nigeria. Nepotism, tribalism, bigotry, a lot of, and the highest corrupt things, you know, happens here in Nigeria. But the Igbos are being targeted at the end of the day. So if you look at all those things, you know, pointing to that direction, and with proof that among all these things, these people are still thriving to survive. I can tell you what is happening in China currently now. I can tell you that the Chinese knows a race called the Igbo people, because they are there and they are not involved. They did legitimate businesses in China. And back home here, you know, they turn scraps to machines. You know what it means? So they want to toe the line of greatness. They want to partner with reality. They want to partner with people who mean to contribute their own quota to humanity and to the world at large. Just like what China is doing. So if you look at that conference and look at the kind of statement they are making there, they might not put everything there to the public, but I can tell you behind the scene, a lot is going on between China and Biafra currently now.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they, look, he's guilty. It's not a question, you know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. Did you see Barack Hussein Obama last night? Take little shots. He was taking shots at your president, and so was Michelle. You know, they always say, sure, please stick to policy, don't get personal. And yet they're getting personal all night long, these people. Do I still have to stick to policy? Let me ask you about that. We're going to do a free poll. Here are the two questions. Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? Ready? Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? I don't know. My advisors are fired.
Are we going to start treating all Muslim Americans differently? Are we going to start subjecting them to special surveillance? Are we going to start discriminating against them because of their faith? We've heard these suggestions during the course of this campaign. Do Republican officials actually agree with this? Because that's not the America we want. It doesn't reflect our democratic ideals.
Trying to Islamize, you know, the people of Biafra. What is your take as regards this?
I think a lot of analysts have been pointing out, you know, the direction how a United States Department, Justice Department, or the United States government. Let's use United States government has come to the understanding that Obama committed a heinous crime in the United States of America while he was still president. We saw the espionage, the conspiracy then to remove Trump with the Russian. A lot of things was being sold out completely. I can also remember Obama's Middle East policy was targeted at Israel. You know, most of the aid and grants that the Hamas got today, you know, came from, you know, Obama-Biden administration. And secondly, let me put it this way. The same Obama we are talking about was fingered in the downfall of Jonathan. The same Obama we are talking about too is from Kenya, where, you know, an unfortunate incident happened about the man who was asking for solidarity for his people that are being killed on daily basis by either by unknown people, or either by the jihadists, or by the Fulanis, or on daily basis they are being killed in their farms, on daily basis. So most times you begin to wonder, what actually is the problem, because you hardly see any Easterner or any Southerner going to the north, for any cause. The Igbo nation never conquered, never thought of, invading any. Igbos are not invaders. We don't enter places to use weapon to conquer anybody, or try to force anybody to anything. We don't do that. But you see these people coming directly, and a certain man, of many parts, stood up, and sacrificed himself, and to alert the world, according to what the United Nations, the AU, and the EU were signatories to, and that is what they called, self-determination. And if you look at what they highlighted about self-determination in the United Nations Act, the Biafra is highly qualified, due for that recognition, and of course to protect the culture and tradition of the people, and also to protect the race, to protect the tribe from being wiped out from the surface of the earth. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu rose up to that challenge. But unfortunately, Obama came from Kenya, under Uhuru Kenyatta, who saw that illegality, the kidnapping of that the terrorist act, and the same thing was, almost the same thing was happening under Jonathan, and we saw, Buhari coming in, under Steve Buhari, we saw that Obama was still pushing for the conquest, empowering, using so many forces, to bring about jihadists within the northern space, and that is what we are facing now in the east. And this thing now are some of the things we are looking at. Those who are actually involved, the former Kenyan president Uhuru Kenyatta, before Ruto Williams came in, then we saw Malami, who's also this thing, and the person who is in charge now is also facing international conspiracy that has to do with the issue of drugs, which can be opened at any point in time. From what I learned, that Donald Trump has also ordered for the fight to be reopened, given the recent moves by Bola Ahmed Tinubu to St. Lucia. From St. Lucia, he went to a summit in Brazil, in connection with the BRICS, and that has attracted a signal that Nigeria has become the enemy of a civilized superpower, America, under Donald Trump, and that's why this is happening today. It is going to happen whether you like it or not, because what we are saying very clearly is that the Kenyan government under William Ruto rising up to apologize to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, signals world attention to what transpired between Nigeria, that no due process was not followed, that the Kenyan also committed international conspiracy, against a man who is duly asking for self-determination and for defense of his people against the killings spearheaded by the likes of, because this APC government we are seeing today was championed and brought to the limelight by the same Tinubu, who also involved meeting Obama, meeting on the rest of them, going to Chatham House and the rest of them, and parlied, and to an extent donated over $500 million to make sure that Donald Trump does not come back to power as at that time. So that is it. And
why do you think Trump will ever forgive them? Forgive Nigeria, the Nigerian government?
It's not about it's not about Nigerian government. It's about those who are involved. What are their intentions? What do they intend to achieve? At the end of the day, and we've seen the escalation of jihadist movement in Nigeria. Conquest, killings. Almost all the 36 states of the federation. And not only that, these people seem to have conspired, against the protocols of diplomatic, relations among nations, breaking treaties, smashing, protocols that held Commonwealth and other nations together, breaking into the United Nations Act, committing a erroneous crime, and because they feel that the man Obama there as president or Joe Biden as president, unfortunately they didn't foresee Trump coming at the end of the day, and now that Trump has come, I told the whole world that with all these factors and resistance coming from the world organizations, world leaders, because it looks like Obama, Donald Trump, and Tinubu might not be in good terms. It looks like the treaty, the diplomatic relationship has broken down, and now what happened to Jonathan might likely happen to him. And if they are also looking at options of resistance as a result of if power, decided to move elsewhere and there's resistance, and then they are going to use that opportunity to definitely, plant in, an ally of the Western world, of the superpowers, the Israel and the Americans, and that's what they are targeting about Biafra. It's an exclusive, analysis, based on the calculation that is being built around Nigeria currently now, around Obama currently now, around Malawi, and all those who are involved in that malicious criminality in Kenya, which the Kenyan government has come out to say they are ready to testify against Nigeria at any time, any day, anywhere.
Okay, but we saw what happened last week when Donald Trump, appointed the first Biafran ambassador, in person of Ricky, Swat, and this was so shocking. They said finally it's as if Donald Trump have finally, agree to move towards the declaration of Biafra. Like he said, Ricky Swat will be, the one in charge of the business and investment in the Biafra land. And with what is happening now, do you not think, at the same time, do you not think it's at time Kenyatta come out to publicly apologize to the people of Biafra for what?
Yes, Kenyatta might likely do that, but at least you haven't done that. The Kenyan government has already done that on behalf of Kenyatta. But that does not mean that you are going to escape judgment. You are going to escape trial, or you are going to escape arrest, or you are going to escape jail. This matter has to be tried, because you contravene deliberately the law of the bind treaties, acts, of civility and organizations and nations, that came together and agreed, and this is how it's going to be. So unfortunately, because you do not want to kill, you don't just want to make sure that Mazin Nnamdi Kanu or any other opposing voice is being shut down completely, then you contravene and break laws, international laws, invade nations, invade countries, just because nobody's going to ask you why. I think it is time now to ask those people, what actually happened between Russia and America in that election. Then what actually happened? Because these are the top matters in the global world table now, that the world leaders are looking at, and they are very strategic about it. They might not be making noise. That's why you see so many appointments, Donald Trump have made in recent times has been always, IPOB, lobbyists. Bringing them in the government, because like we said, trillions of dollars have been budgeted for a proper takeover of Biafra at any point in time. We are we are able to get what will give us, recognition from these entities. And I can tell you clearly that Donald Trump is already engaging the British government, Keir Starmer, somewhere in Scotland currently now, and people are speculating it's not related. It might be related to issues that have to do with decisions that will be taken in recognition of the first Jewish black nation in Africa. And this is a welcome development. The IPOB leadership are not sleepy, but they can gradually be feeling their handwriting on the wall quietly and professionally. Diplomatic moves, everywhere. Why Mazin Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention, he has not been forgotten. His subjects are taking up the mantle, are taking up the cross, from one place to another. And you can see successfully they have been able to solve some of these things. So for him to come up with an ambassador, and with a particular task, to structure how the whole thing is going to be at the end of the day, everything has to be planned properly, and that is where they are waiting. That possibly there's this kind of a thing take place in Nigeria. There will be no election. It's a proper time to plant Biafra at the end of the day, and plant an ally of America and Israel at the end of the day, so that they'll be able to checkmate the excess of how Christians are being killed in